Welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be looking at the Renault Megane E-TECH in the EV60 variant, which is the battery size. You also have the EV40, which is a smaller battery with 40 kilowatts an hour. However, we're going to be looking at this one, which starts at 52,550 euros. Well, it doesn't start at that, that's what this model costs. If you want to get the smallest one, it's going to start at 42,000 euros. So a fairly cheap car, considering if you're in Germany, you also get a kind of rebate if you are using the electrical or the environment bonus, which is another 7,200 euros, which is very, very nice. Let's start off with the design of the car, because I'm a big fan of it. Because obviously electric cars, they usually are hit or miss with the design because they're trying to switch over from a combustion engine to an electric one. And I personally love the design that they've done here in the interior and also in the exterior. We have the new Renault logo, which is implemented nicely in here with this like gray and black touch, which looks very, very nice. And we also have the LED lights, which are the LED pure vision lights, which basically just means that you have lights which adjust to the weather situation, stuff like that. You also have daytime running lights in LED, which are very, very big, and I like them. They're pretty cool. And then one thing I'm interested about, or which is supposed to be a Formula 1 design, so from Alpine most likely, is the side skirts in here and also this thing right here. It's supposed to be Formula 1, and it just reduces the wake turbulence that you get on, well, not wake turbulence, we're not an airplane here, but the turbulence, the air turbulence that you get in the back when you're trying to, or when it goes around the wheel. So it just reduces that, which is a good thing for efficiency and stuff like that. But in general, we do have a pretty good skirt in the front as well, and I just like the design on the front. We do not have a frunk in here, so there's basically no space in there. Let's take a look at the side, where you're going to be flabbergasted by the amount of wheel that you have on here. You have 20-inch wheels, which look insanely big on the car because the car is also only 1.50 m tall and 4.22 m long. And the wheelbase on this is very big with 2.68 m, so you have basically no space on the back here, which looks pretty interesting in my opinion. I mean, they're very big for the car, which is cool. We also have disc brakes in the front and in the back. You can also get 18-inch wheels if you get the lower version with the équilibrier, which is the French way of saying, I don't know how to pronounce it. You still have the not so interesting Renault and Dacia key, which I'm not a big fan of. You have a very modern car, but then you have a pretty old key. Let's open the port here for our charging. Obviously, like I said, the EV60 has 60 kilowatts an hour battery and also 40 for the EV40. With the EV60, we're going to get around 437 kilometers of range. That's what it claims, or that's what the WLTP claim is, with around 16.8 kilowatts an hour. Is that correct? 16.2 kilowatts an hour usage. I personally would have liked a bigger battery for a car like this because it's full electric, so like an 80 or 70 kilowatts an hour battery would have been a little bit nicer. So let's actually see what we can charge if we're going at a normal rate. So obviously, because we have the EV60 version, you can see we're supposed to be loading at a maximum of 130 kilowatts an hour. However, if we look at the loading curve, the max we were able to get was 80.7, and that was at around, we had 40%, and it went up to at 88% now. So not great, you're definitely not getting the 130 kilowatts an hour, and it did take us 36 minutes to get from 40 to around, what are we at, 90% almost now? So that's a pretty long time. Usually it's supposed to be taking from 0 to 80%, 40 minutes with 130 kilowatts an hour. If you get the EV40, it's going to take you another 40 minutes to get to that 0 to 80%. However, you only have a maximum charging speed of 85 kilowatts an hour. If you want to charge at the wall box at home, 7.4 kilowatts an hour. The EV40 is going to take 7 hours to completely charge, and the EV60 is going to take 10 hours. We also have our side mirrors, obviously, which do also have light projection, so you have Renault on the bottom. We also, like I said, we do have keyless go, and then we have this thing which, if we close the door, it just goes very nicely in there, because obviously that's for the CV value, which is at 0.29, so not a very efficient car. I personally like the design from the back. It looks like a squashed down ID4 in my opinion, but just way better, because I'm not the biggest fan of the ID4 in the design. But we can see we have a very small rear view window, but in the inside we'll see what they did about that, so you can actually see out of it. Some clever stuff right there. But again, we have the LED light bar all going all the way through, just like we have on the front basically. This looks very cool, and then a very nice design on the bottom as well. Let's actually take a look at the trunk, which you open via the small button in here. The trunk has a total of 440 liters of storage space if you don't have the seats flipped over. It's fairly spacious. It doesn't actually look like 440 liters. You also have a pretty fairly big lip in here. Down here, which is very nice, you have a good amount of storage space so you can put your cables in there, which is very, very nice. Otherwise, you can have them in there. Let's flip over the seat so you can see the total amount of storage space, which is 1,332 liters. I'm not going to flip over the other side because you can basically see everything. We do have a fairly big lip in here as well, so loading some big stuff like a fridge in here is not going to be the most comfortable thing. But other than that, you have a pretty decent amount of storage space. So let's quickly give you an overview of the infotainment system and basically the interior. I personally love this interior. It has a very nice layout and it just looks very modern with the new displays that Renault has integrated, so I really like that. I'm sorry about the little lagging in there because of the camera. It's a different FPS on the screen that it is in the camera. So we do have Apple we do have Google Maps in here, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, both wireless, which I really like. I know I'm sorry about the red lines, it's because of the camera, so we're gonna quickly get over it. We have Google in here. Google Assistant's absolutely amazing, works completely fine, very quick, one of the quickest infotainment display I've ever seen. And Apple CarPlay, like I said, you have that in here as well. Not a big fan of Apple CarPlay. Google Maps, it's so complicated to use because you have to use the bottom to actually move around, which I'm not a big fan of. We have a lot of systems here, so we have an air filter, for instance, which you can use. We have a lot of assistance, park assistance, which we'll talk about a little bit once we're driving and maybe even test it out. Driving assistance, there's a ton of here, 26 in total, which is amazing, with adaptive cruise control and stuff like that. We'll talk about that once we're actually driving. Let's keep it on here because that's the less laggy thing. We also have volume knobs up on the sides, which I personally like, but it's a little bit far away for the driver, so for the passenger, it's very nice. But then, which I hate, is you still have this very old system from Renault and Dacia on here for your loud and quieter and your skip song button on the back, which I really hate. Everything is modern here and this is just very old. Gear selector is also up on here, just like in Mercedes. We have nice inductive loading in here. It does get hot just like any other inductive loading system, but it works fine. We also have a ton of storage space down here, as you can see, and also in the center console where there is a ton of space in there with 2 USB-Cs, which you can select right there. Love the seats. They're very, money. 10 cents, I'll take it. Very good amount of comfort with these seats. They're very, very nice. I love them. If you get the Iconic Edition, you would also get memory function, massage function, and also have the option of getting leather seats, which I really like. Harman Kardon sound system is in here. It costs you an extra 1,000 euros if you get it because there's some other features that come with it. I'm personally not a big fan of it. Only 410 watts doesn't sound that great, and 1,000 euros, it's really not worth it. If you get the Iconic Edition, it comes with it. Nice fabric up here. Personally love the quality for the price you get. You get some Alcantara touches up here and further down, very nice yellow stitching. That is usually due to the fact that, well, I don't know why it's yellow. I think it's because of the Iconic Edition where you get the front blades in gold. But in here, I would have liked a different stitching, just a white or something. Yellow doesn't really fit in here too much because nothing else is yellow. You also have ambient lighting, which you can change, which is very nice. Climate control is also very nice. I love these little vents. They look pretty cool. Because the rear window is fairly small, we do have a beautiful rear view window, a rear view mirror, there we go, that's what it's called, which is digital, which is very nice. You can change some stuff like the brightness up, down. You can change basically the way it looks. Very, very cool. I like that. The digital cockpit, we do also have different views in here. You could have Google Maps in there. This one's pretty cool, and then you also have the Google Maps again. Sorry about the red lines, forgive me. We also have the multi-sense, which basically means that you can adjust some stuff in here. So you have sport, you have personality, so individual basically, you have comfort, eco, and sport, which also changes the layout a little bit. But one thing I don't like is actually when it's wet outside and you put the window down after it's rained, most of the stuff is gonna collect in here, so this might get a little bit soggy after time, which is not that nice. But again, that's basically it for the front. Looks absolutely fantastic with a big glove box as well. The back seats are very comfortable as well. You have a good amount of upholstering on the sides and everything like that. They're very comfortable in the middle. It is fairly small, so it's going to be a little bit, or fairly tight actually in here if you're sitting with 3 people in the back. You have very good ISOFIX points, just like in any other Renault car. So the ISOFIX points are very easy to get to, which is nice. You have 2 USB-Cs port down in the middle and also a climate control in the back, but you can't change the temperature picture of it. The seats also have this like little pointy thing in the back, which looks pretty cool. Also, if the seat is very far down, you're gonna have no leg room due to the fact that the floor is fairly high. So I am sitting up here very high and my front legs are not getting any support, which can be uncomfortable over a long time. So long period of trips in here might not be the most comfortable if you're a little bit of a taller person. Quality is also fairly good. Automatic windows on the side and a pretty cool handle for the side doors. Other than that, a good amount of storage space and basically everything that you need in the back. You also can flip over the middle console, and you also don't have a pass-through waist, so for skiing and stuff like that, it's not going to be the most efficient thing. So let's take it for a spin. Obviously, I'm not going to show you the infotainment display again because we obviously do have a 360-degree camera as well, so I'm going to quickly show you through the cameras, which is pretty cool. One thing I'm not a big fan of is the rear view camera, because as you can see, it is fairly laggy. It's not the smoothest, quality-wise also not the greatest, but it's still completely fine. Let's also quickly look, once you switch into drive in the front, you also get a view of the front camera, which is very nice. You have a couple different cameras, front, which is nice for if you're going out the front, and you can see, because the camera's all the way in the front, you can see what's coming around you. You have your side view as well, and the 360-degree camera is pretty funny because you can see, yeah, the car is fairly small in retrospect to the other cars around, so it's a pretty cool thing. But a 360-degree camera is obviously nice to have in a car. It's also very helpful. So let's quickly take a look at the car. Obviously, the surrounding view is fairly decent. You do have a good amount of room. The A pillar is fairly big because of this little indent in here as well, and then the B pillar is fairly decent, but the rear view window is obviously very small. That's why you have this in the back. Let's quickly take it for a spin in the city, just so you can get a feel for it, how it drives. We're driving over a little bit bumpy road. You can definitely feel, because of the 20-inch wheels, it's not the smoothest ride. Also, if you change it from the sport mode, obviously just the different steering comes into play, so there's not much play on because you don't have adaptive dampers. There's no changing of the firmness or anything when it comes to the suspension. The suspension is fairly good. It's not the most comfortable, but it's also not the worst. When it comes to the road noise and noise in general, this car is very, very quiet. It has a certain pattern that Renault made themselves, which is the cocoon technology effect, or the effect technology, which is basically just there's some more isolation between the battery and the floor, and also some better isolation in the sides. The only thing that you can really hear is wind noises. Tire noise are basically non-existent in this car, and just really, really quiet, which is amazing. The car's also amazing for city driving due to the fact that it is fairly small. You only have 1.50 m long, 1.50 m tall, and 4.20 m long, which is very, very short, which is amazing. But the wheels are obviously, because they have a very, very big rim of 20 inches, you can scratch them very easily, which is not nice. So if you are a person that scratches them fairly easily, definitely go for the equilibrium package. So you have the option of the 18-inch wheels, because those are just a little bit more, or less prone to be scratched on the sides. And with all the systems, you obviously have a great car for city driving, because it again is fairly small, and then the cameras just help you out a lot. And just the automatic, you obviously have an automatic park in here as well, so if you go in here you can actually park the car automatically. We have tried it. It's not the best thing, but it works. It definitely works. So if you are a person that's not very comfortable when it comes to parking, that is definitely a thing you could do. So let's talk a little bit of range. Because the battery is fairly small with a 60 kilowatt battery, if you get the smaller one, 40 kilowatts an hour battery. When driving in city and in comfort mode, you can get up to around 360 kilometers of range, or even more if you're driving very, very efficient. We can see 16.7 is the current kilowatt an hour battery that usage that we have right now. I have actually gotten it down to around 16.5. What they claim is 16.2. You can definitely get it down to that. Don't get me wrong on that. And that is going to get you around this 380, 370 mark. WLTP claims 470, which is basically impossible with the values that they claim from 16.2 kilowatts an hour. If you do the calculation, it doesn't even, you can't physically do that. I don't know how they did that. But the range is fairly decent. It's not great because the car it's a full electric car, so I would have expected at least around 400 kilometers comparing it to some other cars. But it's good if you're driving it to if you're driving it mainly in the city, and also for some a little bit of a longer trips. For instance, we could easily do an Autobahn trip from Cologne to Kassel, which is around 270 kilometers only on the Autobahn. You can definitely do that with one charge. But one thing I'm not a big fan of is the gas pedal, or not the gas pedal, just the accelerator pedal. because there is like this little gap in there where sometimes it basically gives you a kickback and it just doesn't feel good. There's like a little, I don't know, like a little air pocket which you push through, and then it just feels like there's nothing. There's no feedback, and it's just stuck in there. I don't know how to really describe it, but it's just like a puzzle that's not fitting in the correct spot, and then you have to force it in there. I don't know how to describe it correctly, but it just doesn't feel good. Maybe it's only for this model. Some other cars from the Megane E-TECH, maybe it's just exactly this unit that we have right here might have that issue. So we're driving on B roads now, so we obviously do have the different modes in here. We have Sport, like I said previously, and the Sport mode just gives you a little bit more direct feedback. It gives you a quicker accelerator, stuff like that, just what you expect from general Sport mode. With 220 horsepower, we do actually have a decent amount of time. 0 to 100 is 7.2, if I'm not totally mistaken, or 7.4, I think. Yeah, 7.4. We have been able to get around 7.5, but that was with 2 people in here and a full equipment in the back, so 7.4 is definitely doable. But you can get around corners very quickly. You can accelerate all of them nicely, because with basically any electric car, you just have the batteries in the center, so the center of gravity just gives you a great amount of force through the corners. And honestly, for the price that you're paying for this car, with the 7,500 euros X, or 7,200 euros minus that you get from the electrical or the environmental bonus, is very, very good. It's fairly cheap. You get 220 horsepower, 60 kilowatts an hour battery, and an amazing quality in the interior, and 20-inch wheels. I mean, I like 20-inch wheels. They look a little bit funky on the car, but in general, I really, really like the driving style of this car. You can definitely see we're going at 100 kilometers an hour. There's some cars which I've driven around here, and they just feel a lot different. And this one, it could easily go 120, 130 around these corners, and it still wouldn't have any grip issues. It just feels amazing. Honestly, I mean, the car in front of us is also doing around 90 in these corners, and that's a little bit of an older car. But you know what I mean. It just feels very, very planted to the ground, and just gives you the perfect amount of steering feedback. I mean, what more would you like from a car? It's obviously not supposed to be a sports car, but it has the capability of being like one. Speeds. Look at that. It definitely does have a punch to it. And there we go, we're basically up to 90 fairly quickly. What you do notice is that it has like a little, it feels like a turbo lag when it starts. It gets off the line fairly slowly, but then it feels like the turbo is kicking in. Obviously it's just an electric car, but then it really starts going. Let's quickly go a little bit quicker around this corner. You can definitely see what I mean with the center of gravity feeling very, very nicely. Look at that. You can kick it around here fairly decently. That was worth around 70 kilometers an hour, which is very good for such a car, and there was no tire screeching or anything like that. Obviously, you do also have a couple other things. As you can see right there, we have 80 kilometers and it's showing 60, so we can press this button once we're in adaptive cruise control, which basically shows us, okay, it's going to switch over from the 100. It's going to show us, okay, we can go 100. We can press the button, and then it's automatically going to go up to that speed. And there you go. We can see it accelerates without me doing anything. We also have lane assist, so obviously it can keep you in there if you press that. You also can turn off traction control on the side. I did just come off the highway, and or the autobahn, and the fastest we were able to do is 168. Sorry about that. I just need to know where I'm going. 168, which is very, very good. So, well, not very, very good. I don't like the fact that you can only get 168, but for an electric car, it's a fairly decent amount. Obviously, in most countries, if you're not watching from Germany, 168 is going to be completely enough, because you're not going to need it anywhere else. For the other assists that we have on here, we obviously don't have a heads-up display, which I would have liked. But other than that, we have adaptive cruise control, we have lane assist, we have 26 in total. If you step out, you can hear if somebody's coming out on the side, so it's going to warn you basically if there is somebody going past, so it's going to give you a big. One thing I'm also not a big fan of, you might be able to see, is that the changing of the display brightness changes automatically. We have the exact same daytime outside, and it just keeps changing, which sometimes is a little bit annoying to the eye. So that might be a little bit hampering, but other than that, it's completely fine, because I'm a big fan of the infotainment display. And also the quality in general from the blinkers and stuff like that, they just feel very, very good. You wouldn't expect it for a car at this price range, which is amazing. So I'm a big fan of the car. Let's get over to the conclusion. Renault really did outdo themselves on this one. I really like the design. The interior is amazing. The infotainment system is just amazing. It's very fluid, it's very practical, everything like that. And it's a perfect car for that. It's small, so it's practical as well. even though it's supposed to be an SUV. One thing I would personally change though is a bigger battery. I don't think the battery is big enough for the car that you have. I mean, it's completely doable. You obviously can get a fairly good range out of it. However, the CV value is not the greatest, so the battery is not the best. However, if you do want to get it, make sure to get the EV60 just because of that bigger battery size. Hope you guys did enjoy. We'll see you next time and have a good one. Bye-bye.